Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. It's a serious business. We're talking about Nigeria's debt burden. It might not be the kind of your usual political stories on the program, but this one concerns how we can sustain our nation and the development of the polity. Considering Nigeria's debt profile, for example, from 2014 to date, can we say we are biting more than we can chew? We have the benefit of the experience of two gentlemen and a lady. Our panel tonight on the program, Ms. Patience Onia. She is the director at a debt management office. Dr. Obadiah Melafia, a former CBN deputy governor, and Senator Shehu Sani is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. They've been talking to us on the program today. Let me allow you quickly, Dr. Melafia, to land on the trajectory where you were before we went on that break.
Well, thank you so much. I was trying to talk about really what we're using the debt, the loans for. For example, during the Civil War, it was a terrible Civil War. Obafemi Awolowo was de facto Minister of Finance. We did not borrow $1 from the euro-dollar market to finance that war. And even after the post-war reconstruction, Nigeria did not borrow $1. And one of the first things we did under the current administration was the first visit was to borrow IDA loan of 1.2 billion, I believe, for Northeast rehabilitation. And the Northeast is still as bad as it was before. So and to me, I suspect, with all due respect to my colleague here, distinguished colleague, the DG, that, a lot of it also goes for consumption. And that worries me. It is foolhardy for anybody who has difficulty in feeding to go and borrow from the bank for consumption. And that is very dangerous. I think that we should do more to save, and lots of areas of cost saving. Nobody talks about that. If you can save a lot, you should be able to finance, recurrent expenditure from what the government earns. And secondly, for me, as a matter of principle, you should borrow only for, not even for all infrastructures, but for only those infrastructures that have a cast iron guarantee on return on investments. The debt is getting way too high, and we are reaching a dangerous threshold, and Nigerians need to be told what these borrowings are being used for. And I don't like it when politicians borrow towards the end of a term in the hope of living the baggage for future generation to carry the
Dr.
weight
Melafia,
of it.
let me allow
That is not
Senator
good enough.
Shehu Sani to come in here. Senator Shehu Sani is in the National Assembly. They have the power of oversight on some of these things, and your committee is in charge of local and foreign loans. How did we get here? And you were the one who spoke on the floor of the Senate, saying the approval should be given to the Eurobond. You heard Dr. Melafia here. He's worried about the rate of the borrowing. Are we in trouble?
Well, first of all, thank you, Sharon, for having me here. When you ask the experts whether we are in trouble, they will tell you that we are still at a safe limit where we can still borrow more. But when you ask the ordinary man on the street about the rising debt level of our country, you will hear a contrary opinion or view. Well, the issue is that despite the fact that we approved of the government's borrowing plan, but what we did also was to caution that there is the need to reduce or to limit our request for external borrowing, because it is becoming a pattern, not only in Nigeria, but in most countries in Africa today, where nations are gradually slipping into debt, being attracted and being cajoled by low interest and all sort of highfalutin and sweet words of the need to use money for development. Well, that is very good. But all we knew very well is that we are not moving from an unsafe position to a safe position. When your debt profile move from 5 to 10 to 20, then you are heading towards that very critical level. So if we have to borrow, it should be the last resort. And we should also take cognizance of the fact that there are other areas and avenues and sources that we should explore in terms of getting revenues to fund our budget. Our main concern
Senator,
is the
your
fact
optimism.
that most states,
sorry, Senator, if I may
most
quickly
states
butt
in the
in,
last
just about what you're talking about. Your optimism is against what Dr. Melafia just raised earlier before you started speaking. Dr. Melafia's words are that we are approaching a dangerous threshold.
Well, like I've said earlier, we are not moving towards a safe point, but they will tell you that there is still room to borrow. But as you continue to borrow, you are certainly going to reach to that level where you can't borrow again. We have seen it in most states of the Federation today. In the last 20 to 25 years, many of them have borrowed. And as a chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign and Local Debt, many of them are even denying us the opportunity, the right to go to their state and question how the money they incurred in the name of their people, they actually spend them. So there is virtually lack of interest and oversight even in the Nigerian public as far as debts are concerned. A state governor can wake up one day, get an approval from his state House of Assembly, and simply approach the federal government and say he needs money for water, for roads, for all these things here. But you don't see an active or proactive civil society interested in knowing and asking questions. Why should they borrow and how was the money that was borrowed last, how was it spent?
All right, Senator.
So I think at a time like this...
We've approached the home stretch of the program. Let me get your final thoughts, and we need to do that in 20 seconds each. Let me go to Ms. Oniha. All of these burden that we're talking about, some of the states sharing it, and the big question is the monitoring of how these monies have been borrowed and how they're being spent. The confidence in an average Nigerian is a very big question here. What are you doing going forward? Just in 20 seconds, your final words.
Okay. Yes, before we get to that 20 seconds, I think I should say that we are not in trouble. I need to clarify that. There are limits, and I like the clip you showed on the Honorable Minister of Budget and National Planning. There are limits to how much we can borrow. There's a ceiling on the debt to GDP ratio of 25%. So we are, as at June, we're at 18.75%. Not that we are celebrating that, but the real issue is that we need to generate more revenues so that the borrowing can be less. And also, the borrowing can be less, and then the debt service to revenue ratios can also improve. So that is the work going forward.
Ms. Oniha, I'm afraid we're out of time. I'll allow Dr. Melafia just about 10 seconds to give us his final thoughts on the program.
If I may just reveal, I signed the first tranche of the Paris Club repayment, the first tranche of $7.5 billion. After signing that check, actually, I fell sick. It is so painful to have to cough out so much money to pay back for loans that were incurred under very shady deals. I watched the document. The government did not tell the Senate what they were using the money precisely for. And I think, please, distinguish Senator,
we need to close now. Dr. Melafia and Senator Sani, close for us in about 5 seconds because we're out of time, actually. Senator Sani, your final words.
We should borrow when it is only the last resort, and we should not borrow monies that we will leave a pile of debt to the next generation of Nigerians without commensurate projects to justify that debt.
Thank you so much, Senator Shehu Sani, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debt, Ms. Patience Oniha, the Director at the Debt Management Office, and Dr. Obadiah Melafia, a former Deputy Governor at the CBN. Thank you so much for coming on the program today. And that's our show for today. Many thanks for watching. I'm Shion Kimale. Bye-bye.